Welcome. Alright, guys. I welcome everybody in today's live stream section, and you all are all welcome and always welcome. Alright, guys. So today is, I don't even know what today is. Let me not put myself into trouble. Alright, yeah. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, and on today's live stream section, we are going to be treating something that is very very important in the life of our young adults, in the life of our young youth. In the matter of, like, it's just something that is more like their a kind of ability, or let's just say a kind of skills, like life skill. Let me just put it that way. Just more like life skills that they should start doing actually, and without them knowing it, and a kind of doing it, or let's just say working on it in a more appropriate way, is really going to affect their tomorrow. I need to say it's really going to affect their tomorrow, and that's not what we want for our young adults, and that's not what we want for our upcoming youths. Do you get that? So that's for that. And under that note, we all we're gonna be treating topic that relates to that as well, and that is a kind of that is going to address that issue. And I bet you, if you're a student and you're seated already, you're really going to benefit from today's stream section, and it's really going to help you to actually adjust on that part. Alright, guys. So that's for that. Okay. Firstly, let me introduce myself now. Alright, guys. So I'm your graphist by name, and our goal is simple: to help our young adults, to help our youth, to help our or returning, let me not say returning, our students out and still in school get to know things that can actually help them, that school is not going to teach it, school is not going to be teaching them, and they are not even expecting to learn it there. It's not school work to do it or to teach. You get that? So that is all. And under that note, we have been covering a lot of topics that has to do with more like life after school, and more like things that our young people need to know when it has to do with their life, maybe when they are out from school. And as well, users saying that school is a scam, because all this is what caused it. Like, everything and every topic that we are treating here and we are mentioning here is the actual cause of that saying, and unveiling it or bringing it to our students and to our young adults notice will help them in ending well. It's gonna help them align, or let's just say work in the right path when it has to do with that matter. Do you get that? So that's for that. And under that note, you all are all welcome. Like, I really appreciate the fact that you're watching, and you're watching it gonna be like you're gonna gain it. So what I'm saying here in essence is, if you're watching and you're students, just sit tight. You're gonna be discussing a vital topic today. And under that note, we said something last live section that was yesterday, the previous section before this one. And before we start, normally what we normally do, I'm going to kind of try running around on the last live section, like just throw more light. Maybe if you're here, if you were not opportune to join yesterday, you can just equally maybe check back on it, or if the topic interests you, you can just equally check back. So that's for that, guys. And under that note, let me just check on yesterday's section. Okay, yesterday's section was failure, growth, and reinvention. Like, failure, growth, get it? Failure, growth, and reinvention. Not today's zone, no, like yesterday's zone. So what I'm to do here now is just maybe to throw more light on what we said yesterday, then now get into what we have today mainly. Alright, guys. So remind you, uh all these things I'm teaching, or let me say everything that I'm pointing out, and every topic we're really teaching here, school is not teaching it, and it cannot be neglected. Like, it's not something that doesn't matter. You get that? So that is why it's necessary. And if we were to leave it, or if we were to abandon it, it's going to really affect our youth. So that is our emphasis, and that is why we are making all of this section to teach out all of this, so that our youth will endure, our Nigerian youths, all of them will endure. Do you get that? So Under that note, I said yesterday's section was failure, growth, and reinvention. Now, at first, we said failure is more like a negative something. It's just more like a bad side of something. Like when someone fails, it's assumed that things did go well. Do you get that? So it's more like a bad side. It's just more like a negative occurrence that happens to one one life. Do you get that? So it can be seen as a failure. Now, mind, I'm just a kind of defining it word by word. I'm gonna combine it so that you're gonna get what I'm saying. At first, I said failure is more like that's just what I said now. Then, if we're talking about growth, everybody knows what is growth. Growth is just like a condition of or where things is being add like things is adding up, like a growth is happening. It's just more like an additional something, so it can be seen as growth. Then reinvention is just more like starting again, like a kind of, I don't know, just putting things in order again and starting again. Just like when you feel you're not going to stop, you're going to reinvent. Like you're going to figure out maybe a more appropriate way and best way to do that thing in a more efficient way to do it. It's just more like starting again, reinvention. So, and if we're combining it here, we just it's just a kind of a failure, like a student that fails, or is a kind of see failure as a miss or a kind of something that normally happens to one's life, and something that is more like an inevitable something that one cannot just or a kind of go out or just go like do something with. They should see it as something like a kind of something they face or see on the process of success. It's just more like if you have not strive, you're not gonna fail. And failure is not actually determining you as a student. It's just more like something that I don't know. It has a kind of experience. You see it as more like an experience something because it's going to or figure you, or let's just say it's going to put you in such a way that you're going to anxious and intentional about what you're doing. Because if you have not really failed, I don't think you're gonna make some necessary adjustments maybe in one or two things. Do you get that? So, and we said it's more like an inevitable something that every student normally face. Maybe one of or one way or the other in your life, you have actually failed maybe a course or you repeated class and all of that. So all these are failures, and you are not to stop if you happen to fail. And you said that so you are to strive more, like you're to see it as a kind of ladder, not to stop, like a kind of experience. Now, experience in the sense of like it imparts knowledge to you, like it opens your eye, like something that's on normal. Let me just say something that's usual. You will not a kind of fish out. Just like when you feel, you're going to figure out. If you did not feel, you're not going to look for possible ways to or search or make more research. You get that? So failure expose, or let's just say failure refine you, like it brings out the best in you. That's the process of like when you're cracking more, like when you're persisting. Do you get that? So that is more like refining you. So as and we said, as a student, failure is not a sign of bad word, or that doesn't mean or you to start seeing it as life has ended, all of that. So that's for that. And under that note, we said a lot. I'm not going to be talking it here. It's just a section before this one. You can just equally just check. So what I just did now is just a kind of I introduced you to the body, let's say subheading, that is the zone, which is failure, growth, and reinvention. So you can equally just check back, guys. So that's for that. And if we're coming today in today's zone now, you all are all welcome. Let me welcome you back again. What I just did was to throw more light on that yesterday's section. So we are back again to this current today's section, and mind you, we have something very big. We have something like the topic that we're gonna be treating today is very, very vital. Like is very important. I mean it is very, very important, and our young adult, our young student really needs to consider this. And if they are not considering it, if they don't see it as something that is important, if they don't see it as something that's worth them like adapting and getting used to, is really going to affect them. You may ask, what's the topic? I remind you, you just have it in the back of your mind that everything you're teaching here, school is not teaching it. So it's not more like school is not set for that. That's not or their objective or goal. Like, do you get that? So they are more like a kind of certificate or a kind of certificate oriented. Like they're gonna be issuing you a certificate. It's just more like teaching you, equipping you academically how to read and write, more of that. So and we are saying here is everything we're doing is just more like life after school. You get it? Just more like life after school, and nobody is teaching you this. And on it, a lot of youth is making a lot of mistakes when it has to do with maybe making decisions and them living independently, free dependent, depending on someone. Most of them do not have the ability to really stand and make some things happen or better decisions. Most of them is going to be slacking, and most of them is going to look or feel frustrated. Do you get that? So that's just everything we were saying here, and it's gonna help shape and help our student not to be a victim of that. So under that note, what we have today actually, all right guys, so what we have today is very 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 essential. All right, so what's that? Emotional intelligence. Do you get that? Let me repeat. What we have today is emotional intelligence, not intelligence. So like intelligence. Where's my, okay guys, all right, let's start mainly. If you're seeing me, okay, now let me welcome you guys again because people are still joining. So I welcome everybody here, and the fact that you're already seated and watching is not taken for granted, and we really regard it. You get, so you can equally give us a thumbs up, or just drop any comment, maybe in one way or like just on the process. Maybe if you get anything, or you really have a problem or a question, you can equally just drop it. Actually we're gonna reply you and maybe get to the point of your need. All right guys, so let's just quickly get into the body of what we have today. I said is emotional intelligence. At first you're going to be, as we normally do now, we're gonna be a kind of defining emotional, then we're not defining intelligence, then before we now combine it. Do you get that? So all right guys, so at first let's say emotional. What is emotional? Like, okay, if you want to ask now, what's emotional intelligence? At first, emotional is just more like your reactions towards something. Like, your firstly you're defining emotional, so it's more like your reaction towards something, like your state of mind. It's just more like how you can react or how you feel, maybe if something is happening to you, or you're undergoing something, and that's something you feel like can be maybe you're really stressed, or a kind of that. If, or maybe on that note you can say maybe stress in the sense of maybe you're angry or you're happy. I don't know, it's just more like emotions, like the state of your mind. Let me just say the state of your mind. I don't have the right way to define that, but you should get what I'm saying. Emotional or intelligence, that's what you're treating. And firstly you're a kind of trying to define the word emotional, and you say it's the state of where one acts upon his or her emotions. Like, if you're angry, you're gonna be acting upon, or you're displaying is going to be moving towards that direction, because that's the state of your current mind. You get that? So that can be said as emotion. Now intelligence is just, okay, at first intelligence is just the ability of one to actually know something, maybe in a deeper way. Or let's just say when you have a full knowledge of something, or let's just say you're very smart, that kind of it. So it can be seen as intelligence. Now in this note, or let's just say if we're relating it to what we're seeing here, to combine it, which is emotional intelligence. Now one can say emotional intelligence is just the ability of a student, or ability of an adult to wisely, or just to manage, to handle and to manage his or her emotions in a more appropriate and efficient way. It's just more like in a more appropriate way. That's the word intelligence there, because uh emotions is like anybody can handle emotion in any way. Now if we're bringing in intelligence, that means is in a more appropriate way, like in the best way, or let's just say in a way that is just the best way. That's just it. So that's the word emotional intelligence. And under that, we stated out things here, and still on the note of emotional intelligence, and we said is the ability of a student or an adult to actually handle his or her pressure, his or her emotions, whether angry or happy, or in a more appropriate way, and in a more efficient way. Like, it's just in a more, like, there is more there. That's the intelligence. Like, your actions, everything, the handling is going to be right. Do you get that? So, and better, let me just put that way, better, so that, all right guys, so under that note as well, we said okay, why intelligence alone is not enough. Now, why intelligence, if you're getting into to what you have today, at first I just said we have emotional intelligence as the body of what we're switching today, and I just tried already running around, and under that access, under that we have now why intelligence alone is not enough. Now, as I said, okay, now let me just give an illustration. Just like two students that happen to attend a particular school, and both of them studied a particular course and were issued a particular certificate. Now they came out, they graduated, and they happen to apply for a work, or let's just say in life later on, one of them succeeds and the other one fails, or the other one did not succeed in life. Now the actual occurrence, or let's just say the actual thing that displayed or happened there, is just emotional control. You get that? Now let me still bring it down. Emotional control that happened there is just like the other person that fails doesn't have the abilities to maybe remind you. This is not intelligence alone, like this is not the ability of you reading and writing. That's why I said both of them attended the same school, the same course, and were issued the same certificate. You're not gonna be said the other person failed actually because he came out or she came out with a bad result. You get that? So both of them actually graduated equal. I'm just trying to differentiate emotional intelligence student or adults with non-emotional intelligence and non-emotional intelligent adults. So that's just my emphasis. That's just what I'm trying to differentiate. And I'm telling you that a student that is emotional intelligence has a kind of a better room, or let's just say a better way of handling things around, and can equally end well, just more like life. And mind you're not staying in school forever, so more of the things or more of your actions and display is going to be like to the world. Do you get that? So if you don't have this intelligence to actually handle things, it's going to really affect you. So it could be that, okay, now let's just say that both of them still got to work. Now one has emotional intelligence, the other one doesn't. Now maybe what make the other one to fail, or maybe what made him or her to be fired, maybe, look, I'm just giving an illustration. Maybe both of them happen to work in an organization, and maybe the other person that fails in life, maybe what caused it was a co-worker offended him or her, that kind of it, or somebody treated him or her wrongly, and instead of reporting, or let's just say instead of reaching out to the authority, or him or her resolving it within themselves, maybe he retaliated back, a kind of that, or maybe in a more harsh way. Maybe at last it now resulted to fight or sabotage. They destroyed the work equipment, or like it escalated beyond what they could even imagine. Now at the end, the company maybe, or the organization may just decide to fire boots, or let's just decide to fire that person. Now what really displayed there was emotional, or that student or that adult doesn't or exercise or have emotional intelligence. Do you get that? So that can equally ruin or one's career or life. Do you get that? So if he or she was able to maybe withdraw, or let's just say seek for solutions to resolve in a more appropriate way, that cause of being fired or being kicked out from the organization won't have occurred. So it can actually make one feel, and it can actually make one succeed. So that's why it's just I gave an illustration and said both graduated with the same grade and everything, but one succeeded because he or she is emotional intelligence, while the other one fails because he or she doesn't know how to handle life and pressure. So that's for that, and that's why emotional that's okay, that's we just started explaining why intelligence alone is not enough. So the illustration I gave now should, sorry guys, should a kind of address that. So under that note, I said, we said what is emotional intelligence, and on this now, this emotional intelligence and beyond what we explained has some skills and just some skills and ability that one has to possess or act upon to really show that, or reflect that your emotional intelligence. Do you get that? So those skills, okay, those skills is stated here to be self-awareness, just the ability of you knowing your state of mind and what caused it. It's just like when you're angry, you're going to know what's the cause of me being angry, and how can I possibly resolve it. So it's just the state of one's mind, just being aware of your emotions. That's why it's being said there, self-awareness. Like it's more like you knowing about something, knowing about your emotions, like what is actually triggering it, all of that. So that is the number one skill of emotional intelligence. You're going to be self-awareness, and again self-control. Now, sorry guys, so if you check or if you were able to pay attention to the illustration I gave, so that thing that displayed there is it can be actually referred to as self-control. Now, okay, I've seen comments. Okay, okay, so that's what's actually displayed here can be seen as a kind of uh a non a student that or an adult that doesn't display or has what's it called, emotional intelligence. Because okay, under okay self-control, that's what we're talking about, and we say self-control is just the ability of what to handle yourself, to handle pressure, or no, to handle your emotions, whether negative or positive, whether angry or being happy, all of that. Like you're gonna handle you're not going to let it escalate, you're not going to let it lead you into problem or make you do crazy things. So it's just the ability of you handling it, have it on your hand, like you can actually sit on it and decide how it can, or let's just say how or the pattern, or let's just say the way it takes. So it's not going to drive you to sin, all of that. So that's self-control. Then motivation. On this now, motivation is just more like an innate something that drives you. Is more than quotes from Instagram, is more than motivational talk. So motivation, when it has to do with emotional intelligence, is more like something serious, and it's more like an innate drive, something that drives your mind, something that keeps you going even where when people are not seeing, something that keeps you striving and working hard even when everything is not looking like it, something that keeps you going even when nobody is cheering you. So that's a kind of a good or a good motivation. So that is that kind of motivation that we're really talking about in this sense. So that's for that. And on that note, as I will say, empathy. Now, I'm just trying to mention about 5 skills that, or when it has to do with more, okay, what is okay, when it has to do with emotional intelligence, I said beyond what we explain or define as the definition, one actually or an adult actually has to, or what's it called, like exhibit, or let's just say have all these 5 features. That's what actually keeps you going. Like that's what shows that you're really an emotional intelligence student. So at first I said self-awareness, the ability of you knowing what really caused that problem, what really is driving you, what really is happening to your emotions. That's self-awareness. Then self-control, ability of you handling it, like being happy or angry. Like you're not going to let your angry, like your emotions when you're angry lead you to sin and all of that. So we said again, emotion, okay, motivation now is more than quotes. It's more like innate drive, something that drives you. It's something that keeps you going even nobody's seeing, even though when nobody's sharing you, you're going to still keep doing that. That's motivation. And again, we say empathy. Now it's very simple. Empathy is just the ability, or let's just say for just the ability of a youth, or want to feel, or to put in, like to just put yourself in one shoe, that kind of a thing. Just like more like feeling or the pain of somebody, just more like feeling like somebody, that kind of it. Or just or putting yourself in that person's shoe. It's just more like empathy. Do you get that? So, and under that we have social skills. Now social skills is just more like, as the name implies, social, then skills. Now what's that social skill? It's just more like it's gonna sort of be kind of the ability of you to actually communicate or express yourself well, like social. So it's more like something that has to do with society. So, and as you said there, social skill, you ought to know how to relate with people. It's just more like you relating with people and communicating with people, like Nemo, and trying to resolve. It's just more like you having the ability to solve problems, you having the ability to resolve conflict and problem solving abilities, all of that. So that's as well can be referred as social skill. And under that as well, okay, we had, okay, number two, body, we say self-awareness. And on that note, and I've said something that looks like it already. I said self-awareness is just something like when you're aware of what is actually driving you, when you're aware of what is actually causing you to sin, or what is actually affecting your emotions. Like just like when you just start feeling sad, you're going to be like now self-aware. If you were to introduce self-awareness, it's just like you knowing what is causing you to be angry. Do you get that? And if you even to relate it to students, you just like if a student okay, when a student feels his exam or a text, he or she is going to be okay, let's just say a non self-awareness student is going to be like, this lecturer hates me. And I don't know, that's just what most of us we do actually, and what you even like doing, because it helps, it gives a sense of relief together. So we'll be like, this lecturer hates me, this lecturer just purposely fails me. Do you get that? Now a student that is self-aware, remind you, is the ability of you knowing things like what's really causing that. So if you're a student that is self-aware, you're going to know that you failed. No, it doesn't mean that the lecturer hates you or he intentionally fails you. You're going to know if you were failed because of maybe the lecturer hates you, or you were failed because of poor performance. So you're actually going to know it. Some will be like, I did not prepare well, I did not have much time to study, that's why I did not make good grade. That's fact. That is a self-awareness student. He or she knows what and why it is happening the way they are doing. So that's just for that. And these skills are very necessary that our young adults and young youth start adapting it. And first is to know it and see the necessity, like the this thing that it is, like how necessary it is for them to actually have this ability, because it's going to really help them in the outside world. So that's just that. And we have self-control. And I said something that looks like it already. I said self-control. What self-control? Like self-control, the ability of you to control your emotions. If you're angry, you're gonna control it. You're not going to let it to make you to sin. You're not going to let it drive you. You're not going to make the acting, like you're going to let it make it obvious that you're angry by your actions or by your display. Do you get that? So that's just self control. And this skill particularly is very very important, that young adults can actually handle self control, because self control now it's a great, I don't know, but if when okay, when misused, or when I don't know, when a student doesn't, or an adult doesn't handle it well, it's gonna affect you. Like this thing is very serious, and serious to the extent of it can build you, it can build your life, and it can also destroy it. Now it's just as I gave an illustration. Okay, let me just give another illustration. It's just like when you were out from university and you looked for work, you did not see, and God helps you. You now found you now someone employed you maybe in one big organization, and you were actually okay, but because you lack self-control, like you cannot control some of your emotions and some of your actions, and maybe something, you now did something that you never expected to do, that kind of it. And maybe at now resulted to something, maybe firing you and all of that. So that is more, that's just a kind of a typical example when it destroys your destiny or even your life entirely. So it's not to be taken lightly when it has to do with, when we are telling our students self control, because it has, or let's say it covers a great side or a great part of their life. Do you get that? So that's for that guy. So on that note as well, we say something, and okay, we said motivation. I tried this even when nobody is there, even when what you're actually doing is not really making sense, even when nobody's appreciating you for the fact of, or let's just say for what you're doing already, is more like in something. So is beyond what you see and what you hear, and what, and all of this you see and hear expire. So this one is more like in it something that drives you, keeps you going. That's just it. And we said empathy, the ability of a student. Remind you, everything we're saying here is under emotional intelligence. So when you have these abilities, when you possess all these skills, you're not gonna easily react, or this more, everything we're saying is more like you knowing, like it's just more like you having an understanding of something before you even act or react on it. So that's for that. And under that note, we said social skill, and I think I just tried explaining that. What did I say? I say social skill is just you, like the ability of one to actually relate to with people, communicate efficiently and appropriately, or receive feedback from people and try resolving issues or conflict and all of that. It's just more like society, like you're solving problems and all of that. So it's more like the ability of you to relate with society. So that's actually a skill, and people are actually failing in that, and every adult has to or need to have that ability or skill to actually survive in life or in current world. Or like I so under that note as well, we have something why Nigerian students must develop emotional intelligence. Like why Nigerian students must develop this emotional intelligence. Now, what's the reason? Why, or let's just say, why is it necessary that they develop it? Why is it important that they develop it? Now, it's more like things is actually okay. Why they should actually develop this is because we have a lot of problem. Let me just put that. There is a lot of problem. Now, a lot of problem in the sense of like they need to develop these skills and ability because one is family pressure. Now I'll explain. Let me just list them. Family pressure, maybe social media comparison, maybe maybe a kind of feeling. I don't just know, but it's just more like failures and rejections. All of these, as I said, it's more like something that strives you or something that tests you. And when you're not strong and ready and expecting, you're going to actually quit or give up on oneself. And mind you, I said all these things, and is more like an inevitable something that one cannot just go out or play about without seeing or getting or even it coming your way. So it's more like something that you should be expecting and get ready to face it. And we also said the state of your mind and how you see them is what really makes them look, or let's just say, is what really makes them or act, or let's just say what really makes them what they are. It's more like when you take something more than what it is, or just like when you treat a small problem more than what it really is, it's going to escalate. It's going to actually look or be that big you're expecting it or you're seeing it to be. So that just it when it has to do with a kind of, or I even say, okay, when it has to do with our Nigerian students, like why Nigerian students must develop emotional intelligence. That's what we're really emphasizing on. And we said why they really need to develop this emotional intelligence. At first, we said family pressure, and this just pressure from family, pressures from peers, pressures from neighbors, all of that. Now, let me explain. Just like when, okay, still an illustration, when a student graduates from a university, maybe have stayed 2 3 years, he or she has not started gotten any job. It's not your fault to remind you. And firstly, okay, let me not go into details on that. Let me just finish my illustration. And he or she has not gotten job, and now family pressure in that sense is maybe family will not be like, "Poor bro, what are you doing with your life? You're spending your life, you're wasting your years and time. Your mates are working, your mates have started something, your mates have started, have invested, have established all of those." So this is more like family pressure. And any students that does not have this, one is emotional intelligence, the other one is emotional control. Like all of this ability, if you don't have it, it's going to really affect you. It will now make you start thinking and start seeing anything as an option. It will make you to make silly decisions and take some silly paths. It will make you to feel less of oneself and start questioning your worth and start even feeling that you wasted your years and time in the university. And that is even what actually increase the saying that school is a scam. Have you seen it now? Have you seen the roots? The root is when our graduates and our people that we're expecting or we're looking towards to succeed fails, maybe academically, even after all the schooling. Now it gives room to people that were not opportune to attain that the ability, or let's just say the right to even see all of this. So that just actually what we are addressing. And we wouldn't love our young adults to face all of this. So if you're a young adult, so it's more like a great opportunity for you to actually listen and learn everything I'm saying here, because it's going to really help you. It's going to really direct and guide your path and make you see things in a different view or a way that an average student is not even seeing. So that's for that. And we said, okay, I just said why Nigerian students must develop emotional intelligence. And firstly, I said it's necessary and requested they develop this because family pressure might come. Like we said again, or failure, or let's just say social media comparison. Just more like sorry, guys, just more like when you don't have these skills and ability, you're going to maybe when you happen to see your mates or let's just say your classmates and all of that excelling or posting successful pictures and all of that, you're going to start being depressed. You're going to start being like my own world is different. Do you get that? So that is as well why you need to have the skills and ability because it will help it helps in positioning your mind that you're not a failure, that you just fail. That doesn't mean that you're failed in life. So that is just more like differentiating your self or identity from results. Like your identity is you. Now result is the is what actually happened, whether you fail or succeed. So it's not because you failed, don't take it too hard, don't take it too or let us say don't feel or think you cannot do better. So that's just for that, and that is the more reason that youth and adults really need to have the skills. So that's what, and plenty other reasons why they need to have the skill. So let me not go into details. Alright guys, so I just hope you get that what I'm actually saying on that. So another skill is practical ways. Okay, now it's more like remind you everything we're saying here, even if it's a negative part or let's say negative exhibition, negative something that students are really undergoing that is not helping matters, you're actually gonna be figuring out the way on how they can equally address or let's just say fix that. So that's just the point that we are in now, which is practical way students can build emotional intelligence. Okay, intelligence. Now these are more like stops. Even if you're left out, like even if you're a student that everything I'm saying here is strange because you don't have these abilities and maybe it has started affecting you already and you're like, how can I get or emulate or even get use or even start acting upon all this ability or even have all of the you're on the right place and you're on the right stage and on the right track. So in few seconds I'm going to be touching on it. I'm going to be a kind of pointing out the actual way a student, a young adults, a grown-up adult can really start adapting to all of this intelligence way of handling life, intelligence or that's emotional intelligence or do you get that? So at first, it's just like more like action stage. Sorry, more like action step. Practical way students can build emotional intelligence. So it's more like action step. So I'm going to be pointing out a practical way. Now, practical way at first is more like an acting way, something that is practical. You're going to practicalize it, or I don't know. It's just more like that, and it's going to really work for you. So without wasting much of our time at first, it's just more like pause before reacting. Now I will explain. Pause before reacting. Now what's pause before reacting? I don't know, it sounds silly if you just if you feel not to explain that. Now pause before reacting is just more like before you talk you pay attention, before you react or do something you reason it and maybe compare the good and bad side, or let's just say even if it's possible check the consequences of that action that you're trying to display or act. Do you get that? So that is more like so that's more like okay, that's more like pause. That's more like pause before reacting. So you're going to really know the consequences of what you're doing or even what you are about to embark on and start doing before you actually get into it. So if it has a great consequence or a great negative side, you're going to withdraw and stop. And when it doesn't, you're going to press more. Do you get that? So maybe again is remind you what I'm saying here is about more like action steps students, young adults can take in having or let's say in developing emotional intelligence. So at first I said pause before reacting. Now when you don't act fast, when you reason things before getting into it, it's more like when you have knowledge, like is the kind of emotional intelligence when you don't act upon your or emotions immediately. Just like when you're angry you're going to be doing crazy things. No, now when you have the ability to handle all of those, know what to do at every given time, is more like emotional intelligence. So if you're really doing that, I'm giving you a thumbs up. Your emotional intelligence, young adult and young people. All right, guys. So on that note as well, reflect on emotion daily. Now reflecting on your emotions daily, like it really helps you in being an emotional intelligence young adult, young student. Now what did I mean by reflecting? You're going to a kind of like, just like when you're angry, you're going to be sober, like be alone, reflect on it, what, like, just figure things out, why you're angry, why, or let's just the possible ways to or get relief of yourself, like feel okay again and all of that. So it's more like reflecting on your emotions daily. You get that? So it helps you figure out a more appropriate way. Maybe if you're sad and all of that, maybe to get better. I don't know. That's just where I'm trying to, or let's say what I'm trying to communicate. So on that note as well, still on that practical step, I have like 5 year step, or let's just say tips or ladder you can actually take to be emotional intelligence, or take this part, like to actually get to handle things. You get that? So I mentioned to already, and again, learn to listen more than talks. This is really, like, I need to repeat this multiple times. Most of the times, even to is, I don't know, let me not, okay now, let me not be partial, let me not be one side, let me be a kind of neutral. Both young and old, and even both girls, both, I don't know, let me say the girls, because I'm referring to young adults, so girls and guys. So you need to, sorry, what was that, you need to listen more than talks. Now this alone has lead to, or let's say has caused more harm than good, where you don't even know the cause of problem. You're going to get into it when something is happening, you don't really know the roots, you just land there, like you just start or deciding, or let's just start acting upon the current, or let's just say what you're currently seeing. That is actually wrong, and this alone has have landed our youth and young adult into things that they normal, like they didn't even expect, or they didn't even see coming. Just, okay now, let me just give you an illustration. Just like when two people are quarreling, like just like maybe when you came, like when you came there, I don't know, I don't even know how to position this illustration, but it's more like you listening, you knowing the cause of something. Because firstly, if you don't know the actual cause of something, you're not possibly going to resolve it in a more appropriate way. You cannot solve a problem that you don't know. So it's not like you knowing it first. Now, knowing, there must be a knowing. Now that knowing, it what helps you and puts you in a better position to figure out a way. So if what's related to what you're saying, learn to listen more. Now you're gonna learn to listen more before you act, before you talk, before you even start acting on things. So when you start doing this, it's more like emotional intelligence, like it's more like emotional intelligence. So any student or has emotional intelligence is not going to even think it's necessary to reason or reflect on things even before they talk and ask. So if you're doing it, another thumbs up. You're an emotional intelligent or student or young adult. So that's for that. And again, okay, it's meaning to, again, is accept feedback without anger. Now, what does it mean to accept feedback without anger first? Maybe I'll elaborate on this a bit. To accept feedback without anger, as I said, just like when you feel, don't be angry, accept it as a feedback. It's just something like a result, not you, not what defines you, not what is determining your tomorrow, not even what is determining your next step. So it's more like a feedback. When you fail, see it as a feedback. It's just like when you pass exam, is a feedback of your performance, like just more like a feedback of what you executed, or a feedback of like what you studied. I don't just know, or let's just say feedback of how you understand that stuff together. So it's more like a feedback. So if you're failing, or if you fail as a student, don't take it to heart, don't take it as the end of that thing. Don't see it, or let's just say don't have this mindset that you cannot strive or you cannot exceed that limit. So it's more like feedback. It cannot be emphasized. Failure is more like feedback. It's just like a common, let me not put it in a more light way. It's just more like a common feedback that you can actually press and succeed or even perform more if you strive more. So see it as a feedback, and it's going to be a feedback for you. But if you see it as a big deal as a student, I don't know, it's going to affect you both psychologically and emotional, in fact all around. So they won't stop telling students to see failure as feedback, because if they should start seeing it that way, like the effect, or let's just say the bad side is, or let's just say like just the bad side is not going to be much on them. Like there is this I don't know, there it's not gonna be just be much. That's just it. The effect of that video is not gonna be much, because of their state of mind, because of how they see it, as because of how they take it and treat it. Like, so that just for that. And I think the last one here, okay, that's okay, we just said accept failure as feedback, and on okay, accept failure without anger. Okay guys, sorry guys, so we just said accept failure without anger. That's just we just explained now. So again, we are saying practice patience and consistency. Practice patience and consistency. It's just very alarming that in this our current generation, most current era, current decade, or let's say century, but it's current. I'm just referring to this our time, that most of our adults, most of our youth, most of our young people are not patient. I don't know, but that's just the fact. Everybody, like nobody is patient, nobody wants time, like nobody wants to undergo process, nobody wants to kind of take I don't know, step by step things. So everybody wants it fast. It kind of that, if it's in Nigerian language, tell you as the words, that kind of a thing. So everybody just wants it just like that, fast. And this action, or let's just say this, or this actually affects students. Just like when a student fails to study hard, fails to or take assessment and gets his or herself ready for exam, he or she maybe is gonna pay and all of that just to pass. Do you get that? So they actually want it fast. They don't want to undergo the process, and most of the times it has a kind of bad side, great effects on them, which is not always ending well. It's just like from the illustration I just discussed now, such students may not be able to maybe defend his or herself in the site, or even defend his or her results. That's just the fact, and it's really affecting our youth. So the saying, or let's just say that I don't know, that spirit of not having patience is really affecting. So you said practice patience and consistency, and even if you were to ask how can the students practice patience and consistency, now patience is more like consistent, like I don't know, okay, both of them is a quite different something. Patience is just the ability of one, the ability of a youth, the ability of a student to undergo process, like take time to try, or let us see, be, I don't know, it's just more like time process. Or okay, patience consumes time, facts it consumes time. So that is why it's hard for most of you, that we get that. So but what we're saying here is it always has a bad side. If you're not patient as a student, if you're not patient as an young adult, you're going to get things like together, like you're going to get into trouble. That just it. And if you're talking about consistency in this sense now, this matter of consistency as well is what really most of our youth, most of our young adults are not meeting up. Now what's consistent? Even if you were to ask, it's just the ability of you still going, like it's just more like daily something, like more like everyday consistency. It's just okay. Now when someone tells you you're consistent in this your market, that's maybe what you see it as, or let's just say the knowledge, or let's just say things that is gonna be passing to your knowledge. It's just that you're serious, like you're always ready and active. Right word active, that's true. Right word is active, that you're always active, almost always consistent in your stuff, like anything you're doing. So it's more like even when you're reading, maybe when you're passing studying for exam. Let me now give you, and again the most alarming part, or let's just things to say, is that consistency beats talent. At first, what's even talent? Talent is maybe when you can actually do something better than people, maybe you have your own style or method of doing it, strategies that actually works perfectly well, that people don't doesn't easily do, or doesn't, I don't know, cannot just do it that way. So it's more like talent now. And we're telling you in this sense that consistency beats talent. Now, how? You may ask how. Let me explain. Okay, it's just more like when you feel that you can really comprehend something. Okay, just like a student that can comprehend things well and a student that is dumb. Now, if a student is reading 1 hour daily a week, it's just more like 7 hours. You just get my or track we am really pointing to. So guys, so if a student is reading 1 hour daily for a week, that's 7 hours. And a student is just studying 10 hours. Okay, let's say if a consistent student, that's consistency, you reading daily, consistency, 1 hour every day, that's 7 hours. Then a talented student is reading remind you, talent is just more like when you can, and he or she feels that he or she can actually perform well on it. So when a talented student studies 10 hours on a day, I don't know, is nonsense. Let me just say it's nonsense, because let me tell you why. The one that you remind you, you're talented, you study 10 hours, the other person is a dumb student, but he or she studies 1 hour every single day. Now if what to accumulate his or her own is 5, is 7, your own is 10, now he or she is going to beat you. That's just the facts, because he or she is consistent daily something, your own is just once in a while. Even if you did it or more time, like, you cannot just beat consistency. That's just the fact. Like, or you cannot just beat consistency. So that is just it. And what we're saying in this sense is that our young adults should start adapting to it. Anything you're doing, just get serious on it. Like, just be on it and always show up. It's just more like an active something. Now, even if you were to relate it to content, now if I'm to bring it to content, like maybe business, okay, now let me just say content. Now what's content? Content is just now, it can be any niche. If it's a YouTube tutorial or growth, we tell you it's a niche. Now we tell you it's a niche in the sense of you're going to be on a particular stuff, like you're going to be on a particular place. If you're posting entertainment, if you're posting comedy, if you're posting a tutorial video, you're going to stick to it. So it's more like a niche on a particular thing. Now we'll tell you to be consistent. Consistent in the sense of you're going to be showing up, and your audience is going to be like you're always every or always available, and this helps build trust or reliability. And I don't know, like one shop, like they are gonna trust you more. Just like when you sell something and you're showing up, they're going to be like, this person is real. Like, for the fact that you're showing up every day is going to or give them this confidence that you're real, that you're not fake, and you're legit. Do you get that? So that's just where consistency, that's just the work. And each work is always good and excellent. So consistency, as I said, talent cannot beat it in any way. You cannot compare someone that's showing up and daily something to someone that shows up once in a while. So both of them is not gonna be matching, not in even in any way. So that's for that. So we our emphasis on that note, our emphasis on practical patience and consistency is for our young adults should, for them to start adapting, or for them to take things serious. Even if to study, take it serious. Even if it's a skill, take it serious. Even if it's I don't know, handwork and all of that. So it's more like a serious something, and always doing something. So that particular thing you're taking serious, you're going to be always on it. That is just the consistency. They're always on that particular thing. So that's for that, guys. And if you start aligning, or if you start taking that part, or if you start seeing it as something that is beneficiary and is really going to, like, if is going to really shape your path, and is going to create more results in a short time and why that you wouldn't expected. So that's for that, guys. So if you've watched so far and you have passed any knowledge, if you have implicated you in any way, if you have seen this I don't know, in one of in one of the ways, or let's say in everything you'll be saying here, if you have benefited in any way, just consider giving us a thumbs up. Maybe just drop anything. You can drop your name, you can drop your country, you can drop your location, you can drop your school, you can drop your course of study, you can drop maybe any way you will get into trouble, maybe from your like from your emotions and all of that. So you can just drop anything and we just do well to reply. UF will do well to reply you. That's for that. And if you've watched up to this, you can as well consider subscribing to our channel if you have not, or you have not done that. And you can equally check us on other social media handles. We are active on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and YouTube here, and UF Graphics, all social media. And so you can equally follow us up and get to learn things more and all of that. So that's for that. And if you have watched up to this, I really appreciate the fact that you're here and you really watched to this. So it's a great privilege, and I really appreciate the fact. And if you have watched up to this, I'm really convinced that you actually have a kind of have tried communicating sense, like you have really grasped something. So that's just the fact. And as I said, it's not taken for granted anyway. So I really appreciate the fact that you watched and you watched up to this. And maybe you will just try relating out to with your students, with younger ones and older ones that you feel that has to learn or to listen to most of the things we were saying here, and people that you feel that everything we're saying here is just meant for them. So you can equally share our links, maybe tell them our names, or even, I don't know, or even refer there. I don't just know, we are UF Graphics or social media, so they can just equally just check on us and maybe try following us to learn things and to get on the right track. So that's our goal and objective. So thanks for watching, guys, and it's not shaking for guys. So at the point and moment you're gonna go offline, so check us back tomorrow by 12 p.m. and you're going to dish out, or let's just say surprise you with a better and a more insights topic. And you're going to really you're going to